Make things happen. And introduce Amy, so we're glad to have Megan.
So we actually at Silicon Slopes have a couple more events. I know you just heard about a ton of...
Just talk Michigan.
Okay, we just told you about a ton of events, but there's just a couple more that I think you'd be interested in. On a week from Friday, we're having the founders of Homey in our space at Silicon Slopes to talk about founding their company, and that will be a podcast recording, which are always fun. On the 20th, we have a founder forum meeting for anyone who's starting a business. And on October 27th, we have a startup conversation with Andrew K. Smith and Shauna Smith, who founded Fort Foods Group. So all of those should be really great events. Subscribe to our newsletter to find out more about these events, and you'll get that once a week with registration links. If you have any questions, find me out.
How do they sign up for the newsletter? Where do they go?
Anywhere on Silicon Slopes. At the end of any story, there's a link to sign up to our newsletter. So I encourage you to do that. They're fun events. There's always free food. So. Anyway, Amy is awesome, and you're all so lucky to hear from her today. She's a frequent contributor to Silicon Slopes, and we love her for that. But she's also a contributor to Forbes, which is more of a big deal than Silicon Slopes. She founded Osmond Marketing. She is now head of marketing for Simples, and she's amazing. And I'm excited that you get to hear from her today.
I know you have many other things you could be doing right now at lunchtime, so it is an honor for me to be here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Let me turn off this mic.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Who am I? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I'm the Verizon guy. So how many of you guys want to start a business? All right, how many of you do not want to start a business? We got a couple back there. That's okay. You know what? Entrepreneurship can happen whether or not you want to start a business or whether you want to be part of an amazing entrepreneurial endeavor. And I have done both, and I love both. And so regardless of what you guys decide you want to do, we need to have a lot of, one thing is common, and that is leadership, right? So who wants to be a good leader? Right? Has anybody ever felt like, I don't know if I've got the skills to do it. I don't know if I actually have the ability to be a good leader. Do I have what it takes to be the next Ryan Westwood at Simplest, or the next Josh James, or the next Mark Benioff? My answer to you today is that you do. You have that ability. And I'm going to give you a few different tips today that can help you really understand and channel what you do best and help you become the very best leader that you can be. So I would love for you guys, since we're in school, to be able to take out either a phone or a computer or a pencil. Just by way of curiosity, does anybody ever bring a pencil to school anymore? a couple people. And so what I would like for you guys to do is to, several times in this lecture, I'm going to ask you guys to write something down. And at the end, we will read some of them. So I'm very excited to present, can you be a good leader? The answer, as you know, is yes. So many people will know that growing up, I was a very sensitive child. Like, everything hurt my feelings. And now I have daughters like that, and I just roll my eyes thinking what my mother must have thought of me. And I was so trying to do everything right, and I was still so trying hard to be perfect. And obviously that's impossible, and obviously that is counterproductive to good leadership, right? However, as I grew and I became a little older and a little bit more mature, what I realized was that I could make my personality work, and I could still be a good leader while, embracing the core aspects of my personality. Most of us think of CEOs as, or many of us think of CEOs as just very, very strong, decisive, able to take charge. What are some other things that you guys think of when you think of a good leader? By show of hands. Yes?
A good
great speaker. Okay, good. What else? I think I saw a hand. It was someone scratching their head. Yes?
Somebody who knows how to find great talent.
So that is so great. Jason is our director of business development. That's why he said that. Okay, yes.
Somebody who's flexible with ideas and accepting of new ideas and not just set in their ways, and adaptability with
Absolutely. Flexible and adaptable. I love that. What else? Yes.
somebody that cares.
Someone who cares. Absolutely. Who wants to work for a leader who doesn't care at all about whether you're in the company or you're not? Great. What else? Something else. Great leaders. Notice that a lot of the traits that you guys have said just now are not typical CEO red personality traits. So, one thing that Utah Valley Business Q did that was really interesting last year, for their 40 under 40 that were nominated, they had everyone take a personality test. And what they found was that 40% of the leaders featured in the 40 under 40 had that quote-unquote red personality, where reds need to look good technically, be right, be respected, strong leaders, and love challenges. That was 40% of the group here in Utah County. 37% were yellow, where they need to be noticed and have fun, they love life and social connections. And you can see how that would make you a really good leader, right? Where you gather everyone together, and let's go have a party, and let's go build something amazing together. 13% of blue, 13% of the business leaders were blue, and that's where I fell. And so blues need to have integrity and be appreciated. They're focused on quality and creating strong relationships. So for me, knowing that I need to be appreciated and I need to be told that I'm doing a good job and I need to be have integrity, you know, those things could work towards like great leadership qualities, or they could be a detriment. So there's like a positive and negative side to both things. But I found a niche when I founded Osmond Marketing where I could really focus on bringing quality. And it was also a service business where I could really focus on helping people and building those relationships. So for me, the type of business that I chose to start was really well suited toward my personality. And I think that people naturally gravitate towards that. But as you're thinking about what kind of business you want to start, show of hands again, who wants to start a business? Awesome. And who already has started a business that they are, okay, there's some of you guys too. As you guys are building your business and as you're thinking about building your business, think about what your personality is and how it can work for you and not against you. 10% were white, just to follow through with that. Okay. So write down something that right now that you, and you can take this color test later, but write down what color you think you probably are. Most of us have taken this test, but if you haven't, just write down what color you think you probably are. And then write down 2 different kinds of businesses you think that your personality would be well suited for. And you can keep thinking about that as we move on. Okay, so the next one is gender. And I'm in the tech industry, and I love it there. I am the VP of Simplest now, and I love being in technology. Now, there are not that many women in technology right now. And there are some gender biases, I'm sure that you've heard in recent news. And in tech, there's some studies that have been done where men are twice as likely as women to be hired for a job in math, when the only difference is gender. And 46% of women selected gender-based stereotyping is the #1 barrier to advancement in a recent study. Now, whether or not that's true, whether or not it really was gender bias, who knows? But regardless of what gender you are, there may be some situations where you find yourself being discriminated. And just by way of hands, how many of you guys are white dudes that feel like you're being discriminated against? You can go ahead and say it. There is some reverse discrimination out there. How many of you are minorities who feel like you've been discriminated against? I imagine almost everyone has said that. How many of you are women who feel that you've been discriminated against? A lot of women feel this way as well. And so the best thing that I have personally found to being a strong leader is ignoring or reframing those biases. So for me, I'll tell you a story for a minute. I once worked as a marketing director at a healthcare company where it was like I stepped back into the 1950s. It was, no lie, it was like Mad Men all over again. We had to wear high heels, and the boss wanted us to wear short skirts, and we were very, he wanted us to go in and bring, pencils and take notes, but just the girls. The guys could just sit there and go like this, and the girls had to sit there and take, notes with their pencils. And I didn't last there very long because it wasn't a good fit for me. But I was able to make some headway in that company because even though those perceptions existed and even though they were there, I found a way to make it work. So this boss, he didn't really respect me that much, but he did like me. And so I could use that and be able to become more influential, knowing that bias was there, but choosing not to address it and choosing to kind of use his biases to work for me. Does that make sense? So you're going to encounter bias no matter who you are. It's going to happen. There are going to be people who are narrow-minded, not very forward-thinking, in leadership positions. And our job is to reframe it, dispute your own perceptions, to speak up graciously, that I have found it to be a lot more effective, to just address a very particular situation rather than saying, all y'all are biased, by really pinpointing a very particular situation. It's a lot more effective. And then don't apologize for your work or your children. So at Simplest, it is just the most amazing culture. I'm just going to probably talk about this all throughout, but they know I have 5 children, and my boss, our CEO, Ryan Westwood, lets me take the hours from 3 to 8 off to be with my kids, and then I can go finish my work up at night. Can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Sometimes in the summer when the kids are out of school, I have all these little kids running around, so I have to take my meetings in my car. And so one time I stepped out to use the restroom out of my car, and I walked into my house, and then it was still on mute, and so I could hear everything that they were saying. It was hilarious. They were like, "Can you believe she's in her car? She didn't even take her seatbelt off." And it was absolutely hilarious because they just embraced what I had to do to be effective at my job, and they really worked with me. And so, my car, by the way, if you have children working in your car, is absolutely the best thing, because I'll be sitting there in a video conference executive meeting, and I'll have my 6-year-old daughter comes out in the middle of the summer. You must have kids. You're totally nodding. And she comes in and all I have to do is go think, and it's locked out and it's soundproof. And she's sitting there going, trying to get the door open. And I'm just talking away in my meeting and pretending like she doesn't even exist right there. So anyway, it works for us. So basically, don't apologize for your work or your children. We are in an amazing world where flexibility is valued, and you can find a great culture for you. To write down now, what I would love for you to do is I would love for you to write down one way that you can dispute your own perceptions about gender bias. What's one way that you can make it work for you instead of against you? Okay, so third way to be a great leader is to stay true to yourself and to also stay trustworthy. And you'll see up here, this is my Aunt Marie and my Uncle Donnie, and I'm one of the Osmond family that you guys might be too young to even know who the Osmonds are, but back in the 1970s, they were like Imagine Dragons. And so Donnie and Marie still have a show in Vegas, and so this is me and my little baby Haley, who's 6 now, and we went down to the show and hung out with them or whatever. But anyway, so last month I did it, I think it's only been 2 weeks ago, I did an interview with Marie in Forbes. And she is a great example to me about being able to stay true to your brand and to stay true to yourself and to be a great leader even in the face of a lot of negativity. Because as a public figure, she's encountered more than her fair share of negative publicity, and she doesn't really let that faze her. So I really admire her a lot. The things that she said to do, as you go out and as you build your business, you're going to have to make some decisions, and you're going to have to decide what kind of a business leader you're going to be. Are you going to be that kind of business leader that if you see an opportunity to steal business from a competitor, are you going to do it? And if so, are you going to do it in a classy way or in an underhanded way? And to learn from the best, mentorship, being right here is the best place you can be to build a business. The connections you will make and the amazing mentorship of your teachers are really going to propel you to success. And all of us as business leaders in Utah are very committed and interested in helping you guys achieve your goals. When life knocks you down, get up. I remember my first time that we started, the company that we started originally was a book publishing company. And I remembered that the first batch of books that came out from China, I opened up the book and the binding fell apart. And I don't cry very often, but I sat down on my bed and I just cried and I thought, I'm done. I'm done before I even started. And my husband, who has probably only seen me cry twice in my life, was like, oh, what's going on here, you know? And so that was one of my worst moments, was just getting started. But through a lot of mistakes and doing everything wrong once, you know, I've learned a lot. And that is a lot of what entrepreneurship is just getting right back up in round 15 when you've been knocked down again. Working hard, I'll talk about that more later as a quality of good leadership, but that is essential. And only take on challenges you're passionate about. Okay, I'm going to ask you a really honest question. How many of you guys are working in a business that you don't care about at all? Okay, so that's a lot of people. How many of you guys are in a business where you love what you're doing? Okay, awesome. Glad to see you say that. And how many of you have started a business where you're like, this isn't really what I want to do? Few of you. Yeah, that happens a lot. So in that case, you might have to pivot. Because life is too short to do what you don't love to do. I love marketing, and I love what I'm doing, and I love being able to help people communicate their messages and get them out into the world. But it's really hard work. And so if you don't love what you're doing, you're going to be bummed. We interviewed a person recently about a social media position. And I was so impressed with this guy because he was 2 years into medical school. And he was like, he was on a path to fame and fortune and lots of money. And he thought, I'm away from my family. I don't really like what I'm doing very much. And I don't really like what I'm doing very much. And so he quit medical school after 2 years and decided to become a social media expert. And I respect that so much because he's doing what he's doing and because he loves it, not because he wants to make a lot of money. Huge respect for that. Okay, so here, I want you guys to write down, what is one thing you need to do differently to stay true to who you are? Okay, number 4 is to keep learning. So, like I said, I've done everything wrong once. And I try to make sure I don't do it wrong a second time. And that is how life is. You have to keep learning. And especially in marketing, things move so quickly and technology advances so quickly that you have to keep learning or you're going to get behind in 6 months. But I just kind of, because I'm curious, I asked my Facebook friends last night what they felt like a good leader was. And this was a great learning experience for me. And everyone really was very interested in it. You know, I don't always get this much engagement, but I had, in a period of 12 hours, I had 107 different comments of what people felt like leadership was for them. And so that, to me, demonstrates how important it is to just keep learning and to keep growing, and get your social media group to work for you. And as an entrepreneur, make sure that you are always learning about what you want. Okay, on this one, write down something that you need to learn to be a successful entrepreneur or a successful leader within a business. Okay, so this one, number 5, is to work harder than everybody else. I'm sorry to say it, but the 5-hour work week is wrong. It is wrong, and anybody who tells you you can build a business in 5 hours of work a week is just lying. I'm sorry. And you can quote me on that, and I'll go head to head with anybody who says otherwise. Because entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. You work 24/7, that's what you do. And that's why you have to be so passionate about what you're doing. And so, when I was in, probably more than you want to know about my personal life, but when I was in getting my PhD, I was writing my dissertation, and I had just gotten married, because I had been married and then divorced, and then I got remarried, and I had 2 little kids, and then I had 2 more babies before I finished my PhD. And I hate quitting things, so I was determined I wasn't going to quit. But it meant that I had to do it while everybody else was sleeping, because there was no other time. And so I would put my kids to bed, and then my husband would want me to watch TV with him for a while, and then he'd go to bed. And so then I'm like, okay, hours midnight to 3, go. And so my friend Kara gave me this quote by Longfellow that I kept pinned above my computer for years as I struggled through that dissertation, and it took me 7 years to get through my PhD. And I want to read this. The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night. To me, that is the essence of success, and is the essence of leadership, is to work harder than everybody else and to be happy about it. That if you can recognize that's what it takes, you'll be successful no matter what. If you embrace that, in order to get ahead and in order for me to really achieve my goals and my dreams of business ownership and entrepreneurship, or being a VP of marketing at an amazing tech company, you have to embrace that that's what it's going to take. Does anybody have any questions about this one in particular? Since I went head-to-head on the 5-hour work week. Okay, so now what I would love for you guys to do is to write down what's one way that you can work harder. And some people say, no, don't work harder, just work smarter. And there's a lot to be said for that too, because there's no reason to, bust your head against something working hard if you're not being smart about it. But what I'm telling you is that you got to work hard and you got to work smart, both. Because there are lots and lots of smart people out here in the world. Okay, so when there is a problem, go deep. This is a really hard thing to do, but it's also a really important quality of leadership from my perspective. So for a Huffington Post article, I was able to interview a woman who is the founder of Bridgeport and Allegory. Beautiful woman, and wanted to talk about why kindness matters in the workplace. And she said something that was really interesting to me. She said that the average rate of collection for collection agencies is under 10%. And through the techniques that she used, not only did they have an average rate of 32% collection, but they also got invited to people's baby showers, wedding receptions, and they made really good friends with these people that they were just trying to get money from. And how did they do it? How do you think they did this? Anybody have an idea? They did this by going deep. Instead of getting defensive, so they started out usually with someone crying on the phone or complaining. I shouldn't have to pay this because blah, 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 blah. And instead of getting defensive and saying, well, I'm sorry, sir, but you really owe us this money, they went deep and they said, tell me why. Tell me why you're having trouble. Why are you having trouble paying your bills back? Well, because my wife had cancer and I can't pay the bills and I might have to go bankrupt and we're just really struggling right now, okay? So then they would find out why. And then they would empathize. They would say, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. And then they would focus on the future and they would say, let me see if I can help you figure this problem out. Let me see if I can help you. So they would actually go to bat for some of these people. And as the collection agency, they would actually contact the insurance company. And they went above and beyond and they helped people get through their problem and took on more responsibility than they actually needed to with outstanding success. So as a leader, what I'm saying to you today is if you have a problem, go deep. If you are the CEO of a company and you have an underperforming person who looks like they just don't give a crap about anything you say, your tendency might be to fire them. Instead, these successful leaders bring them into their office and they say, tell me about you. Let's focus on what you need. And they have a lot of success that way. So what I'd love for you to do is write down what's one problem you're having where you can go deep on it. What's one thing that you need to fix in your life that can help you by using this technique? For me personally, it would be not getting defensive when my teenager tells me that I'm wrong, or gets mad at me for something, I can go deep and I can say, why is this bothering you? Okay, number 7 is so important to me, is to focus on the positive. Because I have this sandwich model and everybody makes fun of me for it. And I say to everybody I manage, when they write an email, I want them, if it's to a client or whatever, I say, I want you to start out with something positive, I don't care what it is, then deliver your message, then end with something positive. And then you sandwich the message inside your positivity. And I get so much crap for that. They're like, oh, I love your sandwich model, so stupid. And then, sometimes if I do it to them, they're like, hey, you just got sandwiched. It's like a good joke. Like the people that I work with. But there's so much truth to it. Nobody wants to just have straight. Even so, some people are like, just tell it to me straight. And I believe in telling it to people straight, but I also believe in telling it to people in perspective. If you tell somebody something negative straight, then you're falsely focusing on that's their only thing, But that's all they see is oh, I'm doing a terrible job because all they're focusing on is my negative. If you're focusing on positive, then you're able to see that person within a larger perspective. So Gallup did some really interesting polling about this. So for managers, they polled 1,000 people, and they asked people to agree with one of the following statements. 37% agreed that my supervisor focuses on my strengths or positive characteristics. With that, they had 61% of people engaged in the work and 38% not engaged. They had almost nobody disengaged. 11% said my superior focuses on my weaknesses or negative characteristics. 45% were still engaged. 33% were actively engaged, and 20 were not engaged, and then 22% were actively disengaged. So by focusing on, if somebody focuses on your negative qualities all the time, don't you want to just, say, whatever, dude, I'm out. Either that, or you say, I'm going to get you back. That's what 22% of people were saying. So now this is what's so interesting is even though this next group didn't say anything negative, they also didn't say anything positive, and they were just ignored. In this group, only 2% of them were engaged. 57% were not engaged, and 40% were actively disengaged with the company. So what's the story about this for leadership? Be positive, and if you can't be positive, be negative, but don't ever ignore them. Right? Okay, so now I want you guys to write down what is one way that you can be more positive in your leadership. Whatever it is. You guys are all leaders in some aspect of life. Finally, the last point that I want to make is that you should be somebody that people can believe in. And I want to call out two Westwood brothers, Ryan and Isaac, at Simplus. They're the ones that founded Simplus. And when I came on to, when I first became the VP of marketing for Simplus, it was only in July. So I had spent the past 8 or so years building up Osmond Marketing as the CEO, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. And then Ryan and Isaac were longtime clients. And so we had a great relationship. I helped them with some of their content. And then Ryan approached me and asked me if I would like to be his VP of marketing, because they were building out the executive team of the company. And I was completely shocked, totally shocked. And I was also completely honored, because I have so much respect for what these guys are doing, how fast they're growing, what they're building, and the types of leaders that they are. I had been burned before in positions where I had been, like we were talking about before, where there's gender bias or a lot of negativity in the workplace. And so that was always, a factor to me about whether to actually join the company. And I knew from the first moment that this would be a very positive experience for me, and that they were very inspiring, and that I could learn a lot from them. And I also knew that I'd have a great time and we'd build a great company, and that they actually needed my skill set. So it didn't take me very long to say, yes, absolutely, I would love to do this. And it's all because they are people that I am inspired by and I want to associate with. And so far in the company, they have 3 former CEOs who are part of their team now. And I find it very unusual that former CEOs will want to leave a business ownership position to come over, and they're successful CEOs too, that they'll want to come over and be part of a team, a larger team. And that is because these guys are inspiring. So, just a quick plug for Simplus. They have reached, I think it's 300% growth this past year. And they are on track to do another just the same amount. They're like this hockey stick. And they have got funding, they've got the right team in place, of course, I'm just kidding. And they have a really strong value proposition. So, if you guys are interested in getting on board a fast-moving train with leaders that are very inspirational and that you can learn a lot from, come talk to me after this, because Simplus is on its way to really, really big things. So I just wanted to reiterate that what an honor it is to be with you today. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and I know that no matter what kind of a person you are, if you're an introvert, an extrovert, red, blue, white, purple, green, you can be a good leader, and you can really achieve all of the goals that you have for yourself. Do we ask for questions?
Tell them a little bit more what does Simplus do?
Okay,
what is the business model?
Okay, Simplus is a Salesforce implementation consultancy. So a platinum Salesforce partner, and we, across the entire Salesforce life cycle, we will help with advisory services, implementation services, managed services, and change management. So we do a lot of what, like, you would hire Accenture or Deloitte, PwC. We feel that we are better and faster and less expensive than those billion-dollar companies. And we recently hired the person who is the only Salesforce CPQ black belt in the world, and he's from France originally, now lives in the Bay Area. So the talent that we're acquiring is really amazing. Another VP from Adobe out here just barely came on board Simplis's team, and we're getting people, a lot of people from Adobe, Accenture, and some of the other large companies as well to come run it. Cloud Sherpas has a big place there. So that, yes. What other questions? Does anybody feel like they want to read their roadmap for successful leadership? Do we have any takers? Yes. You want to come read it?
Sorry?
Do you want to read it?
Oh, no.
No. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Sorry. So how did you end up, Ryan just got a little lost in there. How did you end up joining Simplus?
So Simplus was a client of ours at Osmond Marketing, and Ryan asked me if I wanted to come on board and become their VP of Marketing. Yes?
What happened to Osmond Marketing?
Osmond Marketing is alive and running well. Jason, stand up. This is the Director of Business Development here. And Osmond Marketing is being nominated this year as one of the top fastest growing companies in Utah. So I feel like we set it up for success. We're top five. It's supposed to be a secret, but it's going to be announced next week at Mountain West Capital Awards. So that's what happened. It's still running okay. And the great thing about it is that even though I have left Osmond Marketing, the leadership that we have in place is dynamite. And so that, in my opinion, is part of being a good leader, is choosing people to be able to run very well with what you put in place, and also putting in the right processes so when somebody steps in, they know what to do. Other questions? Other questions? Yes?
I hope this doesn't come out wrong, but so you mentioned that you got your PhD, and in your career path, did you feel that the PhD was mostly to help you feel more confident in your jobs, or do you feel like that was really a huge reason why you were able to get the job that you were able to get?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I have an honest answer for you. So when I was 26 years old, I was a divorced single mom with 2 kids living in my parents' basement with $0 in my bank account. And so I thought, well, now what? Now what do I do? And I had a master's degree in English. I hadn't really used that much, just a little bit here and there while I had babies. And so I decided that the best thing that I could do for my kids was to go get a PhD because I felt like it was a good flexible schedule for a mom. And so then halfway through my PhD program, I met my husband. And then by that time I thought, well, I need to finish, obviously need to finish. And I was never planning on working really after that because my husband got a job with Lehman Brothers and we were like so excited and we thought we were set. And then 2 months later, Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. And I was like, now what? Now what again? And so that's when I got a full-time job and started working, and that's what's happened ever since. And I'm super, super grateful for that because it gave me the opportunity to be what I'm doing now. But I do think that I personally needed a PhD to feel like I could compete as well as other people in the workplace because of my personality, because I don't have that red personality, and I need that acceptance. So having a degree for me personally was important. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
How do you find balance in your busy work schedule and family life?
That is it's a hard balance probably for everybody in this room. And I think you just have to compartmentalize a little bit. You have to say, this is my work time, and this is my family time, and this is my work time. And then you also have to be able to give some things up. Like, I used to be a really social person, and I used to plan lunches all the time with my friends, and we used to go play tennis, and we used to go do girls' nights, and I really don't do any of that anymore. And that's because I decided to choose work over social stuff. And my friends have become the people that I work with. And I still have some friends, I still do stuff occasionally. Not that bad. But I don't do it regularly anymore. So I think that you have to realize, like, you know, you've got 24 hours in your day. There's only so much you can cut out in sleep. And then you have to just figure out where you're going to spend the rest of the time. And you have to make some hard choices, like, I'm probably going to have to give up some of this stuff.
Just a comment about the gender bias stuff you were talking about. I think that it's sad that it exists, but it does. But that also creates some real opportunity
It does.
for a lot of people.
It does, and I will say that for me, being a woman in tech right now is the perfect time to be. You know, I feel like I probably have more opportunities than I would have otherwise. And I feel like it's kind of like reverse discrimination in a way. So I can either be like offended by that, or I can be like, sweet, I just got a nice path right open for me. And that's the way that I'm choosing to take it.
Okay, let's hear it for Amy.